Hello, hello. Good morning, Forefront family. Good morning, resident creators. Welcome to our open studio number 8. This means this is our very last open studio of the very first Web3 creator residency, welcoming Kabuki, Demo, and Nico of cohort 2. I cannot believe these 8 weeks have passed so quickly. I think it was the end of April that we put out the open call for the creators, and then we went through, I believe it was a 1 or maybe even a 2 week long process of a meet and greets where each of our 16 finalists did their own little 20-minute jam session with the community, pitching their vision, pitching their ideas of what they wanted to bring to the residency. And this resulted in 6 amazing resident creators, 3 of whom are here with us right now, coming forward for this wild experiment in creative communal co-creation, I would say. I would like to spend quite a bit of time today, friends, maybe reminiscing. What's it like as I kind of narrate to y'all how this began in late April, the open call that was sent out, the meet and greets, and you went through this entire process. Looking back on how you began and where you are now, what are some of the things that you feel have changed, perhaps changed drastically, significantly from what your original expectation, what your original plans were, and what are some of the things that you feel have actually turned out the way that you anticipated?
Maybe I go first.
Sure.
So I would say I went into the whole project with a kind of game plan, but I also tend to not kind of be very rigid. So when the situation changes, I adapt. This is very natural. This is kind of being part of a musician and being able to improvise and kind of, tune into the vibration and then respond to that. So in that sense, I wouldn't say that I kind of came in, thinking like it has to be like this. I was kind of expecting maybe more of a kind of workshop type situation where there were kind of like, where I would be working with people who are in a similar situation that I am. So it would be less just about myself, but more about the communal process. But how it turned out, it was, that it was more kind of like a singular experience. So I just flipped that around and made sure that I made the process very transparent and allow everybody to kind of take part in that and take some even abstract inspiration from that. So that was kind of like how I felt the past 3 weeks. And going down to the final round, obviously it's always, every project that you complete, there's something you learn from it. And I always like these moments where something doesn't kind of work out the way you kind of planned it, especially if you are going into a project without, a kind of set kind of perimeter, so to speak, that you want to kind of explore. But if you're very open, and I was very open, and I just said, okay, I have a very vague idea that I want to kind of include aspects of the physical world in my process, and I didn't really know how this was going to turn out. So I just love that you come in with a plan and you realize it's not how you anticipated, and then I think the real journey starts. That's when it gets really interesting. And I found it quite interesting, when I wrote down that phrase to invite the natural world into the process, I was thinking more about this kind of chaotic situations that I like to create, where I have these pendulums swing or rotations, and there's no way of knowing how they would interact. But now looking at kind of like the situation where I am right now, I actually realized that the natural world that I kind of invited in the process is more about seeing these patterns in nature, so like this these interferences that are now kind of like the main topic or the main kind of theme of my NFT actually resemble very much, these swarms of fish, schools of fishes, or these flocks of birds in nature. So I found that quite interesting, that when you take a different angle, then you realize maybe what it was that you really meant, what you said in the first place. So this is where I am right now.
I love it. Thank you, Kabuki. How about you, Demo?
was like a very interesting process. Like even at the start when I first turned the video for my application, like I think it was the like publicly presenting to a camera and speaking in English, which is something that I've never done. Really challenging and also good for me. Like it made me like reconnect. Like after doing a whole game plan, like I made a game plan of the like idea for me to develop through the residency. I think after doing it, developing it, like I reconnected with some things that, and I made myself reconnect with them. So yeah, it's been really fruitful. As Kabuki was saying, maybe it ended up being more than what I was expecting, like the whole experience, and it's also, especially like the last two sessions, I mainly like spoke words about me, the I transcribed to and how nature works, and so yeah, it's been like it got like which is really fruitful and also challenging because I'm not used to show myself in this work. So yeah, that's mainly like really to what's coming, you know, like these sessions from this week and every session that happened, I might going to happen or how I might develop it, but it always surprises me. It ends up developing, and yeah, it's been really good and
Beautiful. Thank you, Demo. How about you, Nico? Oh no. Oh no. Can we hear you? Hear you? Nico, I don't think. Can anyone hear Nico?
I just see you double. Myself as well.
Let's wait for a little bit for Nico
I was hearing double,
to
like
come
Caroline and Kabuki.
You were hearing double? Yes. So let's see if Nico can come back and join us. But in the meantime, I think a natural sort of bridge question for you both. If you had to do the residency again, is there anything that you would change, knowing what you know now, which is a completely fine sort of. Oh, here comes Nico. Uh-oh.
I think you have a loop. Yeah, you're creating an echo. So I hear myself double. It's like a loop back on your end.
Yes, so why don't we go with this question in the meantime where Nico fixes the loop, the infinity loop. Kabuki and Demo, if you had to do the residency again, is there anything that you would change? And I feel like maybe this seems like it might be cheating to y'all, but I don't want you to take it in that sense.
Not something that I maybe like certainly, but maybe like do it from a different perspective. Might as a cohort share more like the experience and some like activities shared might fruitful in some different ways to what it has. But not as it happened, I honestly wouldn't change anything. It's how it has to be somehow, but yeah.
Yes. This is why I knew you would say something like that, my friend. That's why I tried to caveat with, don't take this as if we're trying to cheat. I know things usually, they always work out the way that they are to meant to work out. But I appreciate what you just said. More, perhaps if you had to do it again, you would love to lean more into the cohort. What are the resident creators gathering more together, sharing that experience, perhaps creating together? Kabuki, what about you, my friend? Is there anything
Yes, that could bring
looking
back more
back?
interesting.
Agreed. What about you, my friend Kabuki? Anything that you would change?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think in terms of like how I came into the project and how things developed and how they're hopefully going to wrap up this week, I'm pretty happy. So there's nothing where I would have said like I would have only changed this, then the outcome would have been that. So I feel like that was a very organic process. But also second one, what Demon said, I mean, we have this kind of thing going on in the background which we can't speak at this point, I believe, but seeing, you know, to work together or like to put co-creation at the center of the project could definitely put a different spin on things and could also maybe make the creative process even more transparent because everybody is forced to come out of their comfort zone and to find these, you know, areas where you can interact and these ideas can change from one form to another. So definitely that would be a very interesting perspective. But I think even looking at what we managed to cram into those 4 weeks, even that was part of the experience. And I'm a big fan of doing these postmortems and looking back, like what went well, what didn't went well. But in this case, I think since it was such a open such an open canvas, or like such a wide canvas to fill with ideas, I think it was good that there were some points to connect, but overall it was very it provided a lot of this openness that you need to react to the moment. So I'm pretty happy with how things are going and went.
Amazing. So glad to hear that. Nico, do you want to try to come off mute and see if... Hello? Hello? Oh. Oh no. Not quite sure. This has never happened before. Nate, if you have any ideas, feel free to come off mute. Our producer, Nate. I'm not sure this has ever happened before doing it during an open studio. Yeah, I'm not quite sure what to suggest. Nico, maybe you and Nate or Noel can text or speak offline to try to solve the problem. Hopefully you can come back and join us ASAP. But so, friends, the reason why I'm kind of pursuing this line of questioning, one of the major sort of intentions behind the Web3 Creator Residency was to really support creators and artists to really explore and unfold their work in this emergent world. What is emergent about this world? The ethos. I heard someone say recently that if you gather 100 people in the room who are working in Web3 will mean 100 different things to these people. And I don't think that that's an exaggeration, but I also think that's one of its strengths. So the ethos, the tooling, the potential in terms of tokens and NFTs, what consumer blockchain will mean for the space, all of these things are kind of emergent and happening on the ground. And Nico, I think I hear you typing frantically.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, sorry, I forgot to mute. I think I got it working. I just need to exit and reselect the input.
Okay, excellent. Turning you down a little bit. Okay, I see Nate. Are you
Sorry.
my friend? No. This is a part of building in public, and Kabuki excels at this. Many times we could not hear him when he came on. He just went with the punches. So Nico, just to remind you, my friend, we are asking you. You looking back to the open call, remembering you reading our post, you deciding to apply, going through the meet and greets. Looking back then and here you are now, what are the sort of things that surprised you? What are the sort of things that didn't go as you expected? If you had to change something, what would that be?
So I'm definitely also not super used to creating in public, and relating to Demo and Kabuki both on this. I think it's like one thing that stressed me out the most is that I always go super ambitious in beginning of the project. I'm like, oh yeah, I have all this time. I can create so many things. And then in the end, as you progress, you're like, okay, like your time and energy is actually very limited. There's only like 8 hours max you can work on stuff every day. And when I do that, and then I keep making the same mistake, but when I do that at home, when I'm creating by myself, nobody's seeing it, so it's okay. But creating in public, it's like you kind of claim that in front of everyone before you get started. So it definitely adds the stress of like having the spectator like reviewing you. But I think a lot of times we're also like probably our own harshest critic, where like I'll be like, oh my god, I didn't get to make the goal, but people usually tell me, well, you still made something, and then like the energy that you spend and the stuff you did make is worth celebrating to a certain extent. So I think in the end, it's like, always good to practice and learn. And next time, when you set a goal, to be more and more realistic. And, I think that itself, it's a practice, not let your emotion like overdrive you, and you just be really passionate in the moment, and then forget about realistic estimation of your time and energy and amount of work that you are able to put into. And also leave room for mistake. Even if you're creating in public, it's totally okay. The last 2 sessions when I was creating with Unity in public, there's like a lot of times that I forgot what the reference is called, and I felt so ashamed, be like, this is like intro level mistake. But then I think a part of it, I think a part of what I learned in this residency is that, like even if you make mistakes, like showing the process of how you navigate yourself throughout these mistakes and how you learn from the mistakes in public, it could also be a really valuable thing for people to see, because like we all have times where we like, like the sound is not working, and then your modeling software is not working, and then there's stuff you don't understand. But showing people how you like navigate yourself out of that might be even more valuable than it's like you already knowing everything like an encyclopedia. So I think that's my takeaway.
Yes, I love that. And my friend, would you mind? Could you turn down the volume on your output? Oh, we turn you down all the way, but you're still kind of like, what do you call that?
Redlining.
Kabuki? Yes, exactly. Clipping? Is that what it?
Redlining. That's the kind
Redlining.
of. But I just
You're-
wanted to
you're-
add something to what Nico said, because I thought
Please.
it was quite interesting. It's an interesting thing we have to learn over and over again. And I actually wrote it today on a post on the Forefront Discord. It's we overestimate what we can get done in a day, and we underestimate what we can get done in a year. So I think that's a human tendency. So we tend to put everything on our plate, and then our eyes were bigger than our stomach. So that's, I think, a really good skill to manage. And also one thing I realize, the older I get and the more I've done these projects, is that I tend to get like a different type of energy towards the end of the project. Like towards the beginning, you kind of move along and you follow up on each result, but towards the end you realize, okay, the resources are X, and the remaining kind of area to fill is Y, and then I tend to produce this kind of higher quality of energy that is just more focused. And it's very rare that I do make it, that I exhibit something and I'm not soldering while the first, the audience starts to come in the room, and I say, this is not part of the experience, it's just not done yet, so I tend to really cram everything in these last 10% of the available project time. So this is just one of the coping mechanisms that I found to somehow, get around this tendency to overload the plate, the daily plate, so to speak.
Thank you, Kabuki. So to kind of circle back to the question that I had when Nico first came on with her repaired mic. So the intention and the mission behind the W3CR was really to discover in this emergent space what creators need to thrive. From the community aspect, there are things that are solely the individual responsibility of the creator, and that they are stewarding the amount of sleep that they can get, the amount of like restfulness that they can bring to their project, the sort of ideation of their project, the roadmap. But then there are so many things in this ecology of creation. And this is last week, I think I tried to address this when I was inspired by what Nico's approach to nature and looking at things within their entire context and not trying to draw out and isolate a single thing. So we really do believe at Forefront with the Web3 Creator Residency that every creator is fruitful as a result of standing on the shoulders of so many other human beings, whether living or not living. I want to pose the question to you again with this sort of post-mortem, as Kabuki said, having gone through these 4 weeks. What do you feel are the sort of essential elements of your creator ecology? And this can be like the computer you can't live without. Like, I think if I were to put myself in Demo's shoes, Demo has expressed that the computer and the mouse are actually incredibly native, organic ways for him to create. He really loves and thrives the feeling of the mouse and sculpting with that in Blender. What are the tools that you can't live without? Do you need, and this is very personal, idiosyncratic, do you actually need a community of people to give you feedback? What we tried to create here were workshops and sessions where the community would be present, would be giving input, would be challenging you with provocations. Why are you doing it this way? Do you actually need that? Do you need peers who are working in your particular medium to give you feedback, to challenge you? What do you need? And it can be quite idiosyncratic as the essential elements of your creator ecology, this entire context or matrix that makes your work possible. And you know what? I'm going to throw another thing on there, and I'm going to just let y'all address this in the way that you want. If you could design a residency for yourself from the ground up with no constraints, what would it look like? Again, related to this idea of what do I need in my creator ecology? What do I need to support me so that I can do my best work? And again, no constraints. This can be flying you out to an island to stay for 6 months with a personal, I'm keen to know. This experiment is all about what do creators need. So who's ready? Nico, go for it, my friend.
I can go first. I'm excited about the second question, to design a residency for myself. I think the creating public concept is interesting. I've never really thought of this as a necessity because I'm just used to like kind of like walking at the dark and at some point be like boom. But I do feel like having spectators of your work adds a lot of like it kind of like adds the viewport of the world into what you're creating, and I think theoretically it can help you like do checking on like, you know, like give you just like unbiased feedback of what you're doing, because when you're in like the zone, like sometimes you're like, oh my, let me just like branch off over here because it's fun, and then maybe you branch off too much and then it's hard to realize that, or maybe that's a new branch that you decided to reroute, you know. But I think having like feedback is definitely helpful. I think the necessity for me would be like having internet access and being able to Google and learn and look up things is essential, and having the softwares that I need. And that's pretty much it. And also like having the external environment to stimulate and inspire me. So like I probably like going to different places and just like meeting different people, embracing different culture. I think all of those like draws inspiration. Otherwise, I think like your art piece is kind of like what you eat and what you puke out, right? So like if you eat like monocolored stuff, at some point you're just gonna puke out monocolored stuff, and the more like vibrant diet you have, the more like vibrant, colorful stuff you can output. So
Amazing.
I think that's my take.
Well, I have to ask you this follow-on question. So, ingesting and then puking out. What do you think have been more of the sort of seminal, influential experiences that you've had? You've just come off of like an epic road trip where you were visiting these communities, but like looking back on your whole life, your professional life, what have been the most influential, formative experiences, communities, cultures that have influenced your work today?
I think moving to New York was the first one. Going to an art school in New York, and like I grew up in China, and you know, kind of a very rigid like education system, and then like just completely getting out of that to New York. It was like the first whole month I was just completely mind blown away by like the culture and like the dynamics. So that's a like number one, probably like biggest like spike of these inspirations. And another one is probably getting into like programming and getting into like computer science in general, and then realizing that like just the amount of in-depth and complexity into this art form that composes a computer has just been like, it's just like things that we take for granted, like, oh, like I have my computer, I have my mouse, but like the amount of like level of details inside this engineering are just so incredibly inspiring. It made me realize just how much we've come as a human race, how much we have accomplished. And yeah, so these, and then also like being on the road trip before coming to Forefront, to the residency, just like, meeting what you would call the hippies, hanging out with like the hippies and then the people that are completely away from the technology. It's also like mind blowing to see just how they live and how compassionate they are towards themselves and their friends and nature, and like just how much there's so much to learn for us from people that don't have the same kind of lifestyle as we do. And yeah, that's pretty much the top three.
Amazing. One last follow-on question, if I may. So you talked about New York and then computer science, computer programming. What has been the top most influential computer program software edifice that has been most mind-blowing to you and inspiring to you in your life?
Like the software, it's hard to say. I would say processing is probably one of the first because that's where I got started. But it's just like a program where you use like code to generate art, and then that itself was pretty inspiring. And then after that, I've been just really into Unity and Blender, and just mostly like be involved with this. Even though I know like part of me knows that to build actual like solid software building on Unity, it's like you're building on layers of giants. Like Unity have like provided you with this much like convenience that allows you to like easily like put things into display. But I know a lot of games are like completely built from scratch, on the C level, where they build their whole game engine and then a game on top of that. And then those are like really incredible for me to like just peek into. I'm not like nowhere close to being professional at it, but like I will like just like try to understand those concepts and how the stuff that we know or are used daily are made, and then like it's just always been incredible and almost impossible to grasp as a whole.
Yeah, those softwares are so impressive. Kabuki, what about you, my friend? What do you need? What are the essential elements in your creator ecology? And then related to that, if you could design a residency for yourself from the ground up, what would it look like?
I think if we're really going like very metaphysical, I would say there's very little I would need to be creative. Like if you have crayons and a piece of paper, I gave this example when I talked about the origins of generative art. There's this lady who she did a large part of her work kind of considering herself to be the computer, and she wrote these instructions and then followed them to create her work. So I would really say like whatever is there, you could get inspired by. If you have like a set of forks, I would maybe, saw them off to get like a pentatonic scale and then make like a fork piano. I don't know. I would just try to entertain myself with whatever's there. And actually, I think that's a good exercise, to really go away, like really shift the paradigm. Like for instance, one of my like big influences, Werner Herzog, the German director, he created this film school, and he basically, focused on what he considers essential for an aspiring filmmaker, which is you need to be able to forge a document. You need to be able to pick a lock. This was not about aperture and about, I don't know, how to write a script, but it was like looking at things from a very different angle. And I think we as creators, we should always keep that, open-mindedness and that kind of train that ability to think outside of the box. And I think if I would have the kind of, or if I would be able to design a residency like this, the thing that I would try to put into the mix is maybe have a budget reserved for creators who are not yet on a professional level, and allow them to kind of take the time, take a week off work or 2 weeks or whatever, and give them the financial means to focus on, really just being creative for a time and kind of coming along the journey and kind of creating this gang together with a professional. And I think for me, just really the human um, the human aspect is the most important thing, to exchange ideas, to get inspired by conversations, and also what Nico said, you need to fill the well, otherwise after a while there's it will run dry, it's inevitable. So, to have like days where you say, okay, today you're not allowed to go into your workshop, but you have to go to a museum, or you have to go to a movie theater, or you have to go to a new restaurant you haven't been to before, like in the artist's way, there's this thing that is called, I think, date with yourself, where you basically block out time in the calendar and you just do something that you normally wouldn't do. And I think if you don't consciously reserve time for this, you're never going to do it. And these moments are so important because they will kind of shape your view of the world, and they will also determine, your future creativity. So that would be my idea.
Amazing. And did you just start working with the Artist Way, Kabuki? I think you just said you
No.
just recently discovered it. Oh, no.
No, a long time ago. I would say maybe 10 years ago or so. I did it
Okay.
once. I didn't really do it fully, but there's some aspects of it that I really enjoy, and I feel like it's just I love to understand, these principles that artists put behind their craft, and just the whole idea, that you sit down at first and you sign a contract with yourself, this kind of determination. I feel like to be accountable for your kind of to nurture your creativity, or to have to kind of weaponize the discipline, that you really show up every day and do the work. I feel that's also like a big benefit of building in public. This is an experience I had when I was writing my last album online, where basically every day at 5 o'clock I had a standing kind of like open studio, and I knew it was not masses, but I knew there would be people who tune in every day, and if I'm not there, they're going to wander, and maybe after a while, if I do it 2-3 times, they won't tune in. So of course it's a sort of pressure, but you learn, you grow under pressure, and you kind of expand your comfort zone only through getting yourself into situations that feel uncomfortable at first. And I feel like these are the things that are really valuable, kind of to bake them into this kind of residency program.
I was watching a podcast recently where the host was having a really amazing jam session. They had traveled somewhere to a conference and were having like a jam session outside of the conference hall. And it just led to so many delightful sort of revelations that they said, this is why I always need to be out in the real world. I was like, yes, the place for Zooms clearly are valuable, and that will always have a place in my life. But this person said these sort of conversations only happen when I can get out, travel, meet people. Nico mentioned the importance of traveling, the importance of experiences in other cultures. Kabuki, do you feel the same way? Do you feel like there is an element of in real life interaction that you just cannot match for Zoom and video conferencing?
100%, especially when it comes to the whole communal aspect, like the places that I visited and where I was invited by communities, I can only understand by immersing myself into this kind of world that they live in, to really understand, what makes this so special, and then take that home with me, and to kind of also maybe yearn a little bit for that feeling, where you kind of really make the effort. You get on an airplane, you sit in there for 12 hours, you go somewhere, and then you sit in a room with other people. That kind of creates that shows your dedication, and that also gives the moment a kind of a different quality, where if you just show up in your pajamas and just make sure everything above the neck is presentable, it's just a different thing. And it was also very apparent during the pandemic, I think, where people actually understood you have to dress up even if nobody's able to see you. I feel like it's if it's your craft, it deserves that kind of that level of respect. Like also what I said in my first session about the rules and rituals, like the workplace is sacred. This is where you are able to manifest things, create something out of thin air. So this should be like a special surface for you, and I feel like our modern life is just so, so poor in regards to these kind of like it's maybe call it magical thinking or whatever, where you consciously say like, okay, I believe enough in this to give it a special kind of place in my daily life or in my heart, and then through this, it's kind of, it creates this feedback loop where constantly, you know, the outcome will represent the dedication that you put in, or the care or the respect. You know, it will be reflected in what you create, and that's, I think, the art that is timeless, and that's the art that speaks to me. So I just want to see myself, you know, to be part of that lineage somehow. So at least I put in the same amount of effort. If something worthwhile comes out, I can't control, but I can only control like, all right, I'm really putting all my, you know, life force into this thing, and that's the best I can do.
I love it. Actually, I love your point too, Kabuki, about the difference where you have to get on a plane, you have to travel, there's inconvenience. And then I imagine Nico behind the wheel of a car driving hundreds and hundreds of miles across the country. That just gives the feeling of actually having landed and being in a community of people a completely different resonance. So I thank you for bringing that up. Demo, last but not least, my friend, we would love to hear from you on this sort of two-headed question of what are the essential elements in your creator ecology? I'm hearing parallel things from Kabuki and Nico, of course, in their unique language. And then also, if you could design a residency for yourself from the ground up with no constraints, what would that look like?
No, definitely something about what I need to work with. I might like choose or mainly use my computer. That are presented to me, and that's how I go to camp like for a month or two, and I have no computer. I can't stop drawing or editing them with my phone. Like I grab the
Hey, Demo, can you hear me?
in the conditions
Can
that
you
are
hear
presented.
me? We're having another build in public moment. So
Mhm.
you're dropping out for me. Do you have any other programs that are unnecessary that you can close on your computer? Because it seems like maybe if you try closing, maybe that will help. And if that doesn't help, maybe switch off your camera. But let's take that as the second step, because right now we're losing you.
I have closed everything. You can hear me?
Yeah, once you turn off all unnecessary programs, then try speaking again and see if that improves the situation. Because I definitely want to hear what you're saying.
All programs. Yeah. I got all. You can't hear me?
I can hear you now. Yes, I can hear you now.
You can hear me now. Okay. Strange.
Yes, I can hear you.
Closed. I don't know what has. Okay.
Okay, maybe you're dropping out again though.
What I was saying is that for real. Oh.
Yes, maybe try turning off your camera, my friend, for a couple minutes and speaking and see if that helps the situation.
Oh, what might be? Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Sounds great.
How about now?
Sounds great.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
Okay. What I was saying. Okay, great. I was talking about necessity. Maybe in my ideal conditions. It's not sounding now.
Yeah, let's go with this. Maybe we can't hear it on the live stream, but
Okay.
maybe it'll be recorded. Yeah. Go for it, my friend.
Okay. Conditions. I would choose mainly my I usually like adapt to the conditions that are presented to me, and I use the tools that are presented to me to create after that. Like, if I go like camping and I am in the nature, and I would draw or like maybe and edit them in with my phone. Like I sensitivity is more after the conditions that are presented to me, and I just love to create with any tool that I can, and I love. So mainly what I would say, like, I do choose my computer because I feel like it broadens my possibility of what with the tools that I use. Um, but it's all about just creating. Like, it's actually, like, me, at least in terms of creativity, to a pencil and a sheet of paper, or like to a 3D environment in Blender. Like, the same it's coming out of me, and that's what I'm looking for when I'm creating. And about my idea, I would say that it might be definitely physical. Like, I like a place where there's like a bunch of artists that have kind of a similar vision, or at least they're going to, and maybe like join all those, like, create on the same thing, like on the same project, might have outcome. And that's something that I've been, like, failing to concrete for many time now. Like, I know a lot of friends that create what they do, and we share a vision, but it's hard to, like, connect time and events in your life to create, to 10 people working on the same thing. I would feel like that the ideal kind of residency for me to develop. Yeah, I hope that you can hear me.
I can, yes. Once you shut off the camera, it was much better, my friend. So you,
Okay.
you mentioned that you do have a lot of friends in your, it sounds like in your local community that you would
Yeah.
love to create with. What do you think is preventing that? Is just the lack of time? Everyone is focused on their own projects to make their own living. Do you think that that's the major
Yeah,
obstacle?
I think
Yeah,
it's that, like, everyone is, like, focused on their main,
yeah,
and yeah, that there's not, like, too much like times, and with things that don't let all these events happen in the same place at the same time. Also, maybe that, like, I imagine, like, a space where get together and like create together, and that doesn't exist, at least for me, and yeah, would be, like, really, really ideal.
yeah. That is a really, really good point, Demo. Um, yeah, and then I'm wondering, just kind of a question off the top of my head is, it helps to have some sort of structure to step into when you have a group of people that are working together. You really do need some kind of structure. And here I'm hearing Kabuki's voice in my head, because usually when we've asked Kabuki, what do you need in your creator ecology? Structure, traditions, limitations. But the polarity of this, the paradox is that these actually increase and facilitate creativity. So whereas Kabuki would say the emphasis, he's perhaps emphasizing in the first initiative, the restrictions, and Nico is emphasizing the freedom, together they breathe and exhale and inhale together, and we need both. But off the top of my mind, I'm thinking, why should it be so difficult for a group of artists to get together and create? Number one, no time and no income, right? Because if you think about, a film can only be made by a group of human beings coming together and creating, otherwise it just doesn't work. Although you do know of these independent filmmakers with nothing but like a camera and iPhone. But really, you do need an entire community of people to come together. But again, they're being paid for that, ideally. And they each have a very clear role. There's a cinematographer, there's the editor, there's the script, there's the script writer, there's the producer. So everyone has a very clear lane that synergizes together. Whereas it might be more difficult if it was just Demo's circle of friends, all of whom are 3D artists or musicians. There's not so much of the restrictions, the limitations. In Kabuki's words, just the structure of, like, clear lanes for people to contribute to. That's just kind of a question that I have in my mind. Why is it so difficult for people to get together? And I realize the structure is very, very important.
Yeah, definitely, like, more have and they work
Yes.
kind of like me, like, really in a way that like but money is also, of course, a concern to get together on
Yes.
whole month on something, but definitely here is what for like 10 people to get together and work on the same thing, and discipline
Yes.
also.
Yes.
Like end up working on myself and in my, I can make discipline, but when there a whole bunch of people like included. But as you were asking, like a residency, maybe a residency that has itself a structure and people who are part, if there's like a structure behind for
Yes, yes, I think that's an excellent idea. Nico, I'm thinking of you, my friend, because I'm thinking that what Demo just said, his friends, they're there, they have the desire, but the structure isn't there, the discipline isn't there. So it's just easier, he says, for me to focus on my own work. Nico, you've really put yourself in a position where your residency project, yes, it may begin with you, but eventually, like you said, it's not going to work until you decentralize outward to a community that at this point doesn't exist yet. Yes, there are a number of people in your Discord already, but you need to gather much more people into the space. Number one, I wanted to ask you, how do you think about this problem of decentralized contribution? A whole bunch of people coming together who don't know one another. You don't know who's good at what, but you've actually been on the ground, whereas you've had groups of people come together and begin to build an entire makeshift city or eco village. How did you see this structure? How was this problem of structure tackled? Was there actually someone coordinating? Nico, come to me. What's your gifts? What's your talent? What can you contribute to the village? Kabuki, what can you do? Caroline, what can you do? Okay, there's gonna be a person, a contractor of this village, so to speak, that says, Kabuki, you go do this with your talent. Nico, you team up with Caroline to do this. How did you see this problem of structure being tackled and engaged with in decentralized communal work?
I feel like this is something the entire DAO space is trying to solve, and it's all about coordination, right? So I think the emergent DAO space is trying to tackle the problem of coordination with blockchain technology and all other like emerging technologies. So this is what I spend like a whole chunk of my time in is just like learning how these DAOs work, learning how people coordinate, and how do you get people together to work on a shared vision. And I don't have like the perfect, I think every task is different in nature. I think there are some DAOs that are doing a really good job. City DAO I think does a really good job, but City DAO has a very, very ambitious goal that makes like the task very hard. I know there's a few DAOs, there's like Cross House, there's Juicebox, there's a few one that I can't come on. There's like a few DAOs that Forefront also does a really good job organizing people, as what I've seen from the outside. There's the Refi DAO. There's like a bunch of DAOs, and every DAO I've seen they have like different kind of different ways of organizing people. Some of them will give tokens to people that they think are interesting contributors to attract them. Be like, hey, these are tokens, and they are not worth anything right now. But if we all work together on this really awesome project, they might be worth a lot. So it's basically like dumping you some free money, but like unless you work together on this, the money's not gonna be worth anything. Which I think is like a quite clever like mechanism. And among that, there's like so many other ways. And I think the problem for artists to come together and do like a shared, like work on a shared vision it's definitely solvable with like this emerging technologies provided by the DAO space, where I think all we need is just to really be clear about what we want to create. Like if I go stand on Times Square and be like, hey guys, let's create everything, and then people are gonna be like, what? But if you have a very specific project, like, oh, this is this virtual world, and this virtual world has all these elements, and we want artists to create aliens, we want artists to create sound, we want artists to create this, and then you make sure that that vision is very clear, and like launch it as a DAO or artist DAO, or you don't even have to call it DAO, but like use this vision as a selling point, and get people together and like figure out some sort of like very lightweight, like, clever token mechanism to leverage yourself, so that as you're creating value, you're also as you're creating artistic value, you're also creating real world value, and then that like motivates people in all sorts of different ways. So Short answer is that I think the problem hasn't been completely solved yet. It's not like something you can Google right away, but people are working on it. And I think it will be fun for us to also try it in our own ways and see if it works out.
I love that. What Nico is saying, I think, is that if you, in the middle of Times Square, hey, let's create something, no one's going to take you up on that. But there has to be enough, and there has to be enough of a vision, a framework, and a structure so that then people can come in and run with it. Otherwise, it's too open, it's too amorphous, it's too indeterminate, and people can't really take that and have accountability and run with that. So to me, again, it sounds intuitive, but it sounds like there has to be this polarity, there has to be this balance of either one person or a team of people coming up with the foundation of the vision. And then it's like those guardrails. And again, Kabuki has said this, it's the guardrails that actually allow you to exhale and to feel like, oh, I feel comfortable. I can take this on. I can feel competent. I can feel confident in joining this community and investing my time because of those guardrails. It actually enables creativity and collaboration. So I think, Kabuki, I don't want to keep speaking for you, my friend. Do you have any thoughts to add to this? But I'm just so grateful for all that you've added to this conversation during your residency.
Sure. I mean, I think the biggest challenge, or kind of like the foundation that has to be laid, is to share a common language. You know, that I feel there's always so much lost in translation, even if you speak the same language, but just, you know, words can have different implications. And for me, the best experience is always if you sit down with musicians and you have this ability to communicate through sound. You know, there are rules and there are certain kind of aspects everybody can agree on. You know, there are so many beats in a bar, and if there's these kind of notes you play in that scale, if that would not be the case, then there would be no communication. It would just be chaos. So in my experience, the biggest challenge putting people together in the room is making sure that everybody understands the same thing when something is being said, right? Because otherwise everybody's running off into their own corner and doing something, but it's not going to fit. You know, the pieces of the puzzle are not going to match. So the more time you invest in that initial phase to really get everybody on board with the concept and with the idea, and have them repeat it in their own words and make sure that the visions align, this is the foundational work that needs to be put into any kind of communal building. And this is also, I think, the skill that everybody needs to bring, maybe even more important than their actual kind of skills as an artisan, the skill to understand, you know, what is needed and what is required and what is being asked from them, right? And I think that's where 99% of all collaborations fail. It's just that people don't really think of the same thing. You know, they don't understand, they hear the same words, but they don't understand them in the same way. And as a result, you know, nothing worthwhile is going to come out of this. So I think the synchronization phase, where you really kind of tell somebody, okay, this is my idea. Now, can you explain to me, can you explain it to me in your own words? And then you realize, no, this is actually not what I meant. This is what I meant. Can you try again? You know, and then you have this kind of process where kind of you're polishing the whole thing until, you know, you really have this smooth surface, and then you can work off that. I feel like that is totally appreciated, you know, how much is lost in language, and especially when you talk about things that are so immaterial, like art, you know, like so much of that is so conceptual, and everybody might feel it differently. So that's why, in my opinion, you know, that's what makes a great team of artists. That's what makes a great band, when they are able to have that common language without words, where they instinctively know. Somebody just needs to say, like, yeah, it's this kind of red hexagon, and everybody knows what what is being meant by that and what that requires from them. So that's, I think, looking at bands is a great analogy, and really, really good musicians that are just able to fit into a context, you know, obviously within a set of rules. But if you put somebody in a bebop band and they play a heavy metal style solo, obviously they're not listening to what is going on around them. So that is what I experience quite often, actually, when I collaborate with people. It's like, no, you're not listening. You know, this is not what we're doing. You know, you're playing chess and I'm playing checkers, or vice versa, right? This is why I always feel like, you know, I think Nico and I, we often talk about like opposite things, but we mean the same thing. You need to have some kind of, you need to have something that connects you from artist to artist or from human to human. And it doesn't matter how you define that, but without that kind of thread that connects you, you can't move together in the same direction. You know, people will move in all kinds of directions, and as a result, you know, at some point that thread will snap, and then the connection is gone. So that's why I feel you need to have that immaterial kind of bond, you know, that really kind of provides the foundation for you as a team of artists to build something that is in the end going to be a coherent structure and not some amorphous mess that we might take.
Ooh, the good thing that we've recorded this, because I think I'm loving this conversation. And Kabuki, I think you hit the nail on the head, my friend, because for non-musicians, for taking us out of that context, what you just said about being able to convey a vision and then asking each other, what did you understand? What did you hear? Hearing that reflected back and just honing that and refining that. That is actually, funnily enough, a process that our community circle team went through at Forefront at the very beginning when we first brought everyone on. We did exactly that process, which I've also studied. Some folks in the business world, they call it strategy briefing. That's the business world's term for what you just described. Is like the initiator, the instigator, the entrepreneur has a vision that they then communicate, then the team communicates it back, that's refined, then it flows down the quote unquote organizational chart, and it's just communicated, reflected back up, communicated, reflected back up. Because even the speaker, the fascinating thing is that even the speaker, the instigator, the person that has the vision, doesn't fully understand their vision, doesn't fully understand the consequences of what they're saying until that is metabolized by a separate human being, by a separate consciousness, and reflected back to them. Then they have an opportunity to go, oh, that's not what I meant at all. I have to change that. And this is the difficulty and also the profound power of communal collective creation. But we don't have time for it. It's just like Demo said, the crisis is that no one has time for it, but it's only when we find the time that we'll finally be able to get out of the mess that we're in. So this is why big hats off to all of you, but big hats off to Nico for taking on this prototype village, which literally it takes a village to build a village. So you have quite the task in front of you, my friend, and I can't wait to follow on with every single aspect of it. But we have been on a delightful digression, and it's now 2 minutes until the hour. I do want to take a little bit of time to hand each of you the mic and just give a short little sneak peek of what is coming for the Forefront family this week and with your residency project. Are you close to wrapping it up? Kabuki, I know you said you're on time. You feel very confident that you'll be finished. Nico and Demo also want to hear from you as well. So Demo, how about you, my friend? Why don't you come off mute and hopefully we can hear you. Tell us a little bit about what we can expect this week. Yes.
Okay, perfect. Mainly this week I wanna talk about and cover everything that I did in the 3 weeks. Like first week, it was more like an introduction of the things that I've done until here and why I'm here. Second one was more technical and showing process, creating a 3D piece and creating music for it. And last one was more personal. And I feel like this week I want to wrap up everything in like these 2 sessions. Maybe had which was like finishing this collection for the end of the residency. I now crazy even thinking about that. Also, it changed. My mind changed on my idea for the collection, which it made me realize that I want it to be kind of endless. I don't wanna put an end to it. I want to keep creating for it, like maybe in the parallel, in the side of still creating other things. I feel like this collection might be like a whole universe in constant creation, and I don't want, at least now, to put an end to it. And this is something that I realized during the residency, because at first I thought that I was gonna end it by the time that I was gonna end the residency. So many ideas come day by day. Feel like I don't want to like limit this collection. I just wanted to let it be free and keep on being created day by day. And so yeah, in this last session, I want to see how it goes. I mainly want to wrap up everything that it's been done until now, and like show the process of creating some pieces. I will finish a piece by the end of the residency, and I am really proud of how it ended up being. And so yeah, I'm happy for that. At least finishing a piece, which is something that I never know when it comes. So I'm glad that it did now in these days. And yeah, that's
Amazing. I'm
mainly
so
it.
happy about that. Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you, Demo. Thank you. Nico,
Oh.
how about you, my friend? Where are you in the sprawling process?
I'm in the crunch hour, so there's a lot of stuff I want to finish. But I think I have enough finished. I've been working over the weekend for, I guess like what I've been showing a lot is the Agartha game, but in today's session and tomorrow's session, I really want to talk about like the Agartha DAO, which is how we're gonna use this DAO to like kind of like gather enough creators together to work on games and things beyond this game. So today's session, I think I will still do like a little bit of technical, just to finish up what I have, and then after that, we're just gonna be talking about kind of like the pitch of Agartha, like what really is it, and like what kind of projects do we really want to support, and how is the DAO structured? How are people gonna be involved? What are some of the things that we have set up and existing? What are some of the progress that we've made so far? And yeah, just like a summary and a reflex for tomorrow's session and today's session. It was just like the final part of the technical demonstration.
Amazing. Awesome. So cool. And Nico, you're going to be, I think you mentioned you're going to be doing your juice box launch, right? Not this week, but you're going to be talking about it.
I think so. I'm having like a meeting with someone from Juicebox very soon. So I don't really know if I can put that on Juicebox by tomorrow's session. If not, like the project should be on Juicebox within a week because I do want to put it up there as soon as I can.
Exciting. Awesome. Congrats, Nico. And last but not least, our friend Kabuki.
So yeah, I believe when we talked, I said I'm not the only way I wasn't gonna finish was over my dead body. So this is kind of the energy I'm bringing into this week. And I have two sessions. I have one on Wednesday called Cause and Effect, where I'm basically, so this week is all about calibration. I kind of decided on the parameters last week, and this was the point of no return, so to speak. And now I just have to understand, okay, what kind of parameter ranges am I allowing for the mint? Because this is kind of the last point of contact that I have as an artist with the outcome. So this is going to be quite interesting, I think, to really, agree on a range that still somehow has the vision of the piece. And for this also, this will be the first time to integrate the sonic aspect. You know, I'm still trying to figure out how to provide the musical side that will be visualized to these interference patterns that I've kind of created over the past weeks. And then on Friday, it's the session is called Through the Portal, which is essentially the point where we will put everything or integrate the code with a boilerplate from fxhash, so that we can actually upload the project to the sandbox, and we can play around and we can do test mints and see how they are coming out. If the screen is just black, obviously that would be a very bad thing, and then I would need to kind of debug and see what's going on. So this is really the point where the kind of last the rubber hits the road, so to speak, you know, where everything that I've built so far needs to be encapsulated into the smart contract that will then be uploaded to the blockchain, and that is then possible for collectors to interact with that contract so that they can then mint their variants. And I don't know, maybe I'm even I'm being very ambitious, maybe I'm even able to upload it during the session, you know, so that we can then do like a live mint with the community. So fingers crossed that we get it to that point.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you all. I'm very excited to see this final week and what y'all are able to come up with. I think I just want to do a quick reminder that we are planning to have the first Web3 Creator Residency exhibition. It's either going to happen at the end of August or perhaps sometime in the first part of September. And the beautiful work that you're seeing, Demo and even Nico and Kabuki, even though Nico's project doesn't seem like it easily lends itself, she does have something really, really sweet for us to mint and to exhibit in the gallery. So Forefront Fam, if you're listening, you will have your chance to look at these creations and to collect if you wish during the W3CR exhibition. So stay tuned for more information about that. And with that, I will bid you all farewell. See you very soon. And again, it's been an amazing journey that I'm so grateful for. Thank you so much. And we'll see you in the Forefront community. Bye-bye,
Thank you,
fam.
Carolyn.
Thank you very
Bye-bye.
much.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.